There's no attack accessible. They got so that process. Okay, good. That's okay. Okay. So it is a cheaper option also. So, yes, Captain Bucks is going to be on time. All right, good evening, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. So, good evening, Willingboro, and welcome to the JFK Center, and welcome to everybody online. I'm Captain Ian Bucks, the Public Safety Director for Willingboro Township. So today marks, a significant opportunity, for us as a community, to come together and discuss a project that the police department is moving forward with. And give us the ability to answer questions that you may have. So our community is filled with individuals who share, the common goal of ensuring the safety and well-being of our families, friends, neighbors, and businesses. And we as a police department, we want to make sure we're as transparent as possible. And we want our residents to know and trust your police department, and that we also have, your best interests at heart. I said it, a bunch of times, when I've done some different events and spoke at different events. We as a police department are only as good as the relationship that we have with the community and that the community has with us. And that's why we're here tonight. So tonight's format, it's going to be a brief overview of the police department's decision on why we looked into this project, a presentation by Sound Thinking, and then a question and answer session. So before I get started, I'd like to introduce the panel and give them the opportunity to say a few words. So I'll start with our Deputy Mayor, Nat Anderson. Good evening, Willingboro.
Good evening, Willingboro.
Good evening.
Our mayor, Kaya McIntosh, could not be with us this evening due to work obligations. So I'm sitting in for her and the rest of my town council members. She asked me to read a statement to the community just to give you some insight as to what this forum is all about. Welcome to our Willingboro Community Engagement Forum to discuss the possible implementation of ShotSpotter technology in our town. This forum is intended not to be a sales pitch, but rather a platform, open dialogue, and feedback. Last year, the Willingboro Police Department was awarded a grant for gunshot detection technology. As part of this initiative, we have partnered with Sound Thinking, formerly known as ShotSpotter, to bring this technology to our community. This technology has been implemented in numerous law enforcement agencies across New Jersey and has proven to be effective in enhancing public safety. ShotSpotter technology is designed to detect and locate gunfire in real time, allowing law enforcement to respond swiftly to incidents. By pinpointing the location of gunshots more accurately and quickly than relying solely on 911 calls. ShotSpotter can potentially save lives by facilitating faster medical attention for victims and aiding in an apprehension of suspects. Today, we are joined by representatives from both the Willingboro Police Department and Sound Thinking to provide information about how this technology works and to address any questions, concerns, or feedback from our community. We encourage all residents to share their thoughts and insights on this subject. Your feedback will be very vital to helping us determine how we move forward. If any questions cannot be answered during this forum, rest assured, we will follow up with you to get answers back to you as soon as possible. Just want to thank you for your participation, and let's begin our discussion on how we can work together to enhance the safety and well-being of the Willingboro community. Thank you.
Also, Council Member Dr. Tiffany Worthy, she is en route. She'll be here in a little bit and she'll give her comments at the end of the presentation. To my far left, your far right, our Township Manager, Dwayne Harris.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to thank you for taking some opportunity or time out of your schedule to come to this important session. It's very important certain things that we do in the community, that we get community input and know how you feel about things. So that's why we're here. So feel free to speak what is on your heart. No question is out of bound. And like the Deputy Mayor said, if there is a question that we don't have the answer for you, we will be very diligent in making sure that you get the answers to your questions. Thank you.
Seated next to Mr. Harris is our Patrol Division Commander, Captain Jeff Perez. He got his cheering section with him, I see.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to say thank you so much for coming to this forum for us. Again, it's our honor to serve you, and we welcome all your input, and hopefully we can answer all your questions and allay any concerns you may have about this project. So thank you.
And directly to my left is from Sound Thinking, our Customer Service Director, Dr. Keisha Fenn.
Well, good evening, everyone. Is it me? Okay. Is it good? Can you hear me?
I know mine's good here. There you go.
I don't know what, you did something to the mic.
Yeah.
But good evening, everyone. Thank you for the round of applause because I was feeling some type of way. I thought I needed to bring some cheerleaders with me. Nobody told me that. But thank you for your time coming out this evening. As the Customer Success Director, my goal is to make sure that the PD as well as the community is satisfied and they are successful. So I am here this evening to talk about what our technology does and how it can benefit your community. I will tell you, I have 19 years of law enforcement experience before I came over to Sound Thinking, and I started out in community and crime prevention. And so I know what it's like to be in the community that is riveted with gunfire and not necessarily knowing who's shooting or, you know, who should we call. So I can just tell you from personal experiences, when we start talking, I will share some of those things with you and how I know that this technology can be very beneficial to Willingsboro. Look forward to the conversation.
All right, thank you. Thank you. And again, thank you all for being here tonight. You know, so why invest in this software, you know, and is it worth it? So the state of New Jersey was giving out grants, you know, and based on our numbers, we decided to apply for this grant. You know, so So I talk about numbers, what are our numbers or what were our numbers? We analyzed the data from 21, 2022, and 2023. And the data that we analyzed was from calls that we were dispatched to. So it's important to notice the distinction or the differences between calls that we were dispatched to and then calls that we were never dispatched to. So the data that we have is only the calls that we were dispatched to. And I broke them up they're broken up into three different categories: fireworks, gunshots, and shootings. So how it works is if someone dials 911, they're going to call our dispatch center. Our dispatch center is going to gather the information, and whatever the caller is reporting that's how we're being dispatched to. So it could, in theory, be a shots fired call, but we're getting dispatched to a fireworks call, or vice versa. So I'm going to briefly go over those numbers, then I'll break them down a little bit further, then I'll break those numbers down a little bit further. So in 2021, we had 104 calls that we were dispatched for fireworks, 96 calls for gunshots, and 7 calls for shootings, for a total of 207 in 2021. In 2022, fireworks were 57, gunshots were 72, and shooting calls were 14, for a total of 143. In 2023, 50 calls we were dispatched to for fireworks, 58 calls we were dispatched to for gunshots, and 5 calls we were dispatched to for shootings, for a total of 113. So if I go over the totals real quick: 2021, 207 total, 2022, 143 total, and 2023, 113. And those are the calls that we know about and that we were dispatched to. So you take those numbers and I broke them down a little bit farther to where evidence of a shooting was actually found by either our patrol officers or following up the next day by our detective division. So in 2021, where evidence was found of gunshots, there was 26 circumstances where evidence was found. 2022, there was 30, and 2023, there was 23. So again, 21, 26, 22, 2022, there was 30, and 2023, there was 23. So now I broke that down just a little bit further to talk about homicides that were caused by gunfire over those 3 years. So in 2021, we had 2 homicides that were caused by gunfire. 2022, we had 1, and in 2023, we had 0. So based on that data, we applied for the grant and we were awarded for the grant. So what did we do from there? So at that point, we started doing our research and looking for a company that offered this technology, and we reached out to Sound Thinking. So why did we choose Sound Thinking? Because of their reputation, their longevity in the business, and the footprint that they already have in the state of New Jersey. So we entered into a 2-year contract with them. So that 2-year contract is no cost to the taxpayer. That's completely funded through the grant that we applied for. So it's important to me to make sure that I express to you that there's no cost to the taxpayer for 2 years. So what's going to happen after that? We have to reevaluate. We have to reevaluate the whole project, and then we have to determine whether we want to continue to move forward with our contract. And at that point, we have to either apply for more grants, and if we don't get any grants, then it would have to be built into our budget. So for the time being, a 2-year project that's going to be reevaluated and determine whether we continue to move forward after those 2 years. So I think at this point, I will turn it over to Dr. Fed, and you can give your presentation. I don't know if you need to use the slides.
It doesn't matter. Well, I can, yeah. I'll do that.
So Sean, if you could go ahead and pull up the PowerPoint.
Okay. All right, next slide, please. So this is gonna be short, but I want you to know that you have two dedicated people here today, starting with myself. I also have the project manager, Addie, here with me. Addie is going to be the one that you all will be, if it's favorable, she will be the one that you will be actually working with majority of the time until you are deployed. So right now, Willingsboro will be seeing Keisha Fedd's face and Addie Rosado's face all the time because we want to make sure that you are successful. Next slide, please. And you can press play, please. This is going to be a video showing you how ShotSpotter works.
A gun is fired somewhere in your city. So what happens now? In the past, there was a
Volume.
slim chance the shooting would be reported to police at all. Even when it was, it took precious time, and there was often confusion regarding the location of the shooting and other pertinent information. At least, that's how things were. ShotSpotter has changed all that. By utilizing advanced technology honed over 2 decades, we have automated the process. We monitor gunfire activity 24/7. So if a gun is fired in any area within ShotSpotter coverage, the system detects, locates, and immediately alerts police of the gunshot. So how does it work? It starts with acoustic sensors that are placed on buildings or street lamps throughout a neighborhood. If a gun is fired anywhere in the area, multiple sensors detect and timestamp the sound. The precise location of the gunshot is determined based on the amount of time it takes for the sound of the gunshot to travel to each individual sensor, effectively triangulating the sound. The exact location of the detected gunshot is indicated by a dot on a map. Once an alert is generated, it is immediately sent to our IRC, or Incident Review Center, where trained acoustic experts then analyze each incident in mere seconds, determining if the sound is gunfire. ShotSpotter acoustic analysts receive extensive training on reviewing and classifying gunfire by distinguishing gunshots from other impulsive sounds that are not gunshots. In addition, they are trained to append additional contextual information such as multiple shooter alerts or full automatic weapons alerts that can prove to be essential tactical intelligence for law enforcement agencies responding to these crimes. The entire transaction takes place in less than 60 seconds. With the real-time ShotSpotter alerts, police can immediately be dispatched to the scene. Utilizing the gunfire audio clip and tactical information, officers can approach an exact location quickly and safely to engage the shooter, interview witnesses, and collect key evidence at the crime scene. The ShotSpotter app enables patrol officers to receive real-time alerts quickly and effectively in their patrol car, on MDTs, or on the go on their smartphones. The ShotSpotter alert system is used in more than 150 cities and is an invaluable tool to help make communities safer by responding to gunshot incidents faster, making it easy to find evidence and reducing risk for police officers.
Okay, so there may be questions. I want to walk through how ShotSpotter works. So you just saw the video, but I'm going to walk you through it as well. Because one thing that you did not hear them saying there on that video was that we have sensors that are listening to conversations. We have sensors that are cameras that are monitoring your ins and outs. You did not hear those things. And I want to make sure that we're very clear. That's not what our technology does. It's designed to pick up bangs, pops, and booms. That's all. Okay, next slide, please. So the way ShotSpotter works, a gun is fired. the assailant, it could be someone just firing off like a 4th of July or New Year's Eve, or they've actually shot someone. So our system detects that. It's detected and it's located. By that time, it's going to send it to our review center. We're going to actually have live people listening in to hear and determine whether or not it is actually gunfire. They're going to review it. They're going to listen to it. They're going to immediately send that to an officer. The officer will receive it on their smartphone or in their mobile device, on their mobile devices in the cars. They're responding. There may be 911 calls, but the 911 calls are going to come about 3-5 blocks further away. We are able to get EMS there, do some life-saving measures, recover evidence. Officers can move forward. This is all done again in less than 60 seconds. So our commitment to you, Willingboro, to the PD. Next slide. Our service level agreement is that as long as it's unsuppressed gunfire outdoor, and unsuppressed means that it doesn't have a silencer, it's not close range, it's not inside of a car, that is outside, again, not invading your privacy in your homes. If a shooting happens inside of a home, we won't be able to detect that. We're not saying that we would not be able to pick up a sound at some point, but we do not do that because of privacy issues. Next is, it has to be above a 25 caliber or higher. Those are the type of guns that we detect. Our accuracy level, we say 90%, but we have an average of about 97% nationwide. Next, when we provide that alert to officers, they are directed to a space that is about 82 feet or a 25-meter halo. So they are we detect it, we tell them approximately how many shots that the system has picked up, and they go to that particular site. Unlike if you were to have called 911 and you say, I think I just heard a gunshot. I don't know where it came from. So what law enforcement is going to do, what are they going to do? If you call 911, what are they going to do? They're going to come to your house. You told them you heard the gunshot. You heard it. You didn't fire it. It didn't happen in your home. So now they're going to waste precious time trying to ask you questions. The only thing you heard was a gunfire or thought you heard a gunfire. But what our technology is going to do is put officers closer to that scene in less than 60 seconds. So that is what we're guaranteeing. And that we will actually be able to publish that again within 60 seconds. So that means that our systems are out there lying dormant, listening for a bang, pop, boom. As soon as it hears it, it's sending it to our incident review center. We have men and women that are listening to determine whether or not that's something to dismiss, whether it's backfire of a car, whether it's fireworks, or it's a gunshot. They're doing that on an average between 32 to 40 seconds, less than a minute. And then getting officers there on the scene, so therefore you have a quicker response time. Everybody understand that? Okay, next slide. So when the notification comes about, it gives officers pretty good information, things that you wouldn't necessarily know if you did call 911. But it's going to pretty much give them a specific location, not the direct location, but it gives them a specific location. But typically where you see that 6, and some of you may be further away, so I'm going to walk up to it. Wherever that 6 is located, we're saying that 6 shots were fired there. So if a gun was utilized and someone did not pick up their casings, law enforcement will be able to go there and either find evidence, be able to render aid to someone that was shot, or find property damage. Something of the sort. That's what we're saying. We detecting 6 rounds in that 82 feet halo. So if they don't find it exactly where that dot is, and 80% of the time, most officers that have our technology will say that that's exactly where they found them, the evidence. But if they don't, they can search that halo area. It tells them the time of day, the location, the area of travel. If it was someone running in a vehicle, that may be a drive-by and they're having a firearm out of the window, We can detect those type of things. So that is what officers are receiving in less than 60 seconds. Next slide. One other thing that we do, we go a bit further. This is pay, I'm gonna say it's already factored in. You get a lot more services from us than you would anybody else. And we stand behind that. We guarantee our work. We monitor the sensors, we repair them ourselves if anything goes wrong. And not only that, the Data for Good, can you go back one slide for me, please? What we do with Data for Good, we actually have a community engagement team. They will come out, they work with the community groups, they will work with public health departments, because we know that individuals that are in these particular areas where gun is riveting or fire, having gunfire, sometimes these individuals are indirect victims. So they need assistance. And if we can share that data with community influencers and organizations, we can start providing additional assistance to individuals that may need it. This is especially important for your schools, where you have kids that hear gunfire, they're used to hearing it. It's normal for them now, which no kid, it should be normal for them to hear gunfire and then gotta get up the next morning and go to work, go to school, and then think that the teacher thinks that they're not paying attention and wondering why. Well, they just heard somebody, or they just saw their loved one shot last night. So these things, this type of information, we can provide it to you. Not to you directly, but to community organizations that are working together that can actually work with the community to get you involved to assist. These are the things that we do. We have so many opportunities that we will come out and we will work with community. If you have community programs like Cop with a Coffee with a Cop, things of that nature, we come out and provide literature and talk to the actual community as well. So we don't leave your side. We're not like a refrigerator. We don't sell it to you and say, hey, two years and we're gone. We're here for you. So next slide. Our next steps, I'm going to have Addie to come up and talk just a brief bit about what's needed and why we really want you here to ask those questions that need to be asked or that may be burning for you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am the project manager for Willingboro. I'm the one that's designing the area of what the select area of where they discussed of need for this 1 square mile area. I am the one that goes on site and I start knocking on doors and requesting permission from homeowners, residential and commercial businesses. I obtain the permissions basically from you that are allowing us to put a sensor on the space of your residential commercial building. Once that's completed, I'm the one that arranges the start on and turn on the system, making sure that it works properly. Once that goes on, they will get the notification. We'll make sure that the team is trained up so that the officers in Willingboro actually understand how to use the system. We will get that running as well. Once everything is good to go and everything is working, we will switch it on basically. All the sensors will be working properly, and then it will detect gunfire from there on. It's very simple as that. The only problem that we have, not a problem, but the position that we have that's more time consuming is the permission process. We have to obtain the permission from residential and commercial businesses because some locations, we don't have the ability to use utility poles. So we have to depend on the help from the community to do that. So the point of contact, I will be the point of contact for that. So that being said, if you feel that you are comfortable with this idea of allowing us to put a sensor on your business or commercial property or business, anything like that, or rental property that you may have within Willingboro, you may contact me. You have my phone number and email. If you don't have my card, I can give that to you for as well. You send me a message and I can check to see if your location is in the radius of where I need it to be. There are about over 40 to 50 sensors that need to be installed. It does not have to be on every house or every building. Our own field technicians will go out within the month of March because that's when we're trying to go live. They will go out in March. They'll get them installed. Once it's installed, there's nothing else to it. It's a sensor's about 13 to 6 inches big. We have different mounting options for depending the building that we're using. So we have a chimney mount, strap mount, things like that. Because every house is different. We don't cause any damage into the roof. It's not something that we do because we don't want to have to pay for a whole new roof. We have different ways that you'll be comfortable with to ensure that you're okay with that sensor being on your property on the building. We try that to do it as high as possible, so where it's able to communicate with each other. Every sensor does not work independently, as you can see in the video. It has to work in conjunction with the other sensors to triangulate where the gunfire is going. So basically, that's how that system pretty much works. I'm actually a deputy sheriff in South Carolina also. I'm on the road for about 7 years now. I actually use the ShotSpotter system on the road. So it's something that I'm actually currently using, not only helping to get installed in other communities to help law enforcement, which is my brothers and sisters in blue, but I'm actually using the system as well in my own communities also.
Thank you, Addie. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it back over to Captain Muggs.
Thank you, Dr. Fred. I appreciate that. So I think it was pretty important to communicate that when a call is dispatched from a resident without this technology, there's the potential that your police officers are going to the completely wrong area. As a homeowner or as a resident, you may hear gunshots or you may hear fireworks, and we'll just use gunshots and say, hey, listen, I just heard it. It sounds like it was coming from, Pennant Lane. And I just use Pennant Lane because that's where I was from. So, so that may not be the correct location. But what Sound Thinking does, it pinpoints that area. And when they're talking about the notifications to our police officers, it's going to go to our central dispatch. And then it's also going to, like Dr. Fed said, it'll be on their mobile device. And it's going to also be in their in-car laptops. So they'll get those notifications immediately. So I think at this point, we'll open it up to the community to answer any questions or any concerns that you may have. If we could just slide the mic over by Lieutenant Toner. And if you have a question, feel free to, or we could actually, there we go.
So Captain Bucks, thank you. And I would like to start off the questioning with two questions. Number one, how many persons are there located in the incident review centers monitoring, the ShotSpotter technology? So if a gunshot goes off in Willingboro at the same time one goes off in Camden, how do you distinguish between, or is that person able to handle those two situations simultaneously?
Thank you for the question. Yeah, we have 2 incident review centers. We have one on the West Coast, which is where our headquarters is in Fremont, California. And we also have one on the East Coast in Washington, D.C. And for 24/7, we have 20 incident reviewers that are constantly around the clock listening to bang, pops, and booms around the nation. Because not only are we operating in the United States, we also have sensors in South Africa as well as Uruguay.
Okay, and then my second question, the sensor locations, are those confidential locations where they are in the community?
They are supposed to be, yes, they are. Yes, to your question. But I do want to address, because some you all may have heard, there have been leaks. We just recently been dealing with some employees disgruntled ex-employees that exposed some locations that they should not have. And so we are currently taking civil and criminal actions against those individuals. But those locations are confidential to protect the individuals, the homeowners, the business owners, as well as the PD. That's why we do not give exact locations. We don't want the technology to be tampered with. You're welcome. Thank you for the question.
So my question is, Willingboro is approximately 7 miles, 7.7 miles. How is it determined where the placements are? What is it based off of?
So the location was determined by utilizing our crime analyst. Our crime analyst went back, Lieutenant Toner, was it 5 years? The last 5 years of those of the shooting calls or shots fired calls, and he was able to determine a location within the municipality of where I guess you could determine or could call our or most frequently area of shootings have occurred. It's it's 1 square mile guaranteed. There is the possibility that that the detection can be heard a little further, but Sound Thinking's guarantee is within that 1 square mile. It may pick something up outside, but their only guarantee is for within that 1 square mile radius. Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm not good at disguising my face. So I've been making faces. I'm sorry. But what I'm asking, okay, you said 1 square mile is the detection area, right? I'm thinking about Willingboro. I've been here 40 years. Houses, that's kind of far off. And I'm reading a sign here where it asked about, it talks about Camden and all these major inner cities that have it. And I'm trying to understand why you came to this conclusion, because from the numbers that you quoted, crime was going down. As I said, I've been here 40 years. I haven't seen where we're at the point where I think we need this. Do we need a change? Yes, absolutely. There was a shooting out in front of my house. So I'm all for technology and, trying to resolve the issue, but I'm not really sure if this is something that's, going to do that for us. Because again, it's a mile radius. That could be anywhere. It could be, that's from Mill Creek Park to the police station. Like, that's not really narrowing it down in a residential neighborhood like this. It might work better in 50 blocks, but we're not a city. Then, on the other hand, as a homeowner, my thought is, what is this going to do to our property values? Having a shot spotter. We're not Camden. We're not Ohio. Our values just got good. I'm just trying to figure out what's next for our home value. And what image is going to shine on our future,
So I'll start off by saying you pointed out that those are larger cities, and I will tell you that we have several small cities that have less. One to come to mind is only 2 square miles, but within that, how can you put a value on life? That's generally, and this is what this particular chief said. That he did not want to put a value on a life, because one life saved is one life saved. And it can cost up to almost $1 million when you start figuring out hospital care, mental, what all those things, those charges are. The question that you asked about property taxes and things of that nature, this is not some big structure that's going to devalue your home. If anything, if crime goes down in your particular neighborhood, then that means that your home value could go up. But if it's an area where you have had crime on a continuous basis, if it's considered one of those areas where there's a lot of crime and people know about it, then your home value will be down. So if you can decrease the crime in your area, even within a year's time, most of our customers start seeing even a more decrease. You were talking about the numbers that Captain Brooks presented. So yes, you're right, the numbers were going down, but you still have some shootings and you're still maybe losing lives. And so therefore, that in itself is a value and can increase the value. And I'm going to pass it on to.
And I think it's important that this is just another tool in our toolbox, and the numbers that I presented were the ones where someone actually called. Unfortunately, there are circumstances, within our community where we don't get a call. We've been, we've handled incidents where we don't get a phone call until somebody is already at the hospital. And then next thing you know, we're trying to backtrack to find out, did this happen in Willingboro? Did it happen in one of our neighboring communities? And if it did happen here in town, where is the location? Going back a few years ago, we had a homicide where unfortunately someone was shot and killed, and they weren't found until the next day when a neighbor walked out of their house and saw that person in their vehicle. I understand it's only 1 square mile. I wish we had the ability and the funding to do the entire municipality, but we have what we have to work with.
Good evening. I wanted to also add on the comment about the one square mile. That's the coverage area, not where it's pinpointed. So 1 square mile is a big space, as you noted. But when the reports come through, Dr. Fed was showing that small circle. That's what the police see. So they don't get that something happened in 1 square mile. What's the radius, Dr. Keisha, for the 82 feet? So that's the detection. They'll let them know there was something in that 82-foot circle. So the 1 square mile is the coverage area. The 82 feet is how it would pinpoint it. I also wanted to comment, I had a few residents ask me a very similar question. They said, is Willingboro so bad that now we have to get this technology? And I responded, I remember early on when I was on council, we needed to get a new fire truck. And the fire truck was a 1997. It was just about going out of commission. The cost of a new fire truck is about $2 million, and it takes about a year to build. And some members of the community felt like, well, but how often is it going to be used? How many calls really go out for a fire truck? And this particular truck had a ladder that could reach up high enough for our senior housing. And residents said, well, how many fires have they had in the past? And I said, well, but if there is a fire, we want to be equipped. We want to make sure that we have what we need and make the investment. And so I kind of use that same logic with this. It's not that Willingboro is oh so bad that we need this technology, but it is another tool that can help us. It's something that's proactive, and we'll see how it goes. It's not costing us anything. It's an opportunity to try it. If the community says we don't want it, take it up. We don't want to do this anymore, we can reevaluate at the end of the year. So it's an opportunity for us to try it out and to see what kind of data it's producing. What does Captain Buck say based on his professional recommendation and how our law enforcement team is out in the field using it? And is it helpful or not? So it's an opportunity for us to try it out, and it's not costing us anything. Thank you for your question.
I'm not sure if you reported this data. It said that the technology doesn't pick up anything in the home. How many of the shootings are in the home versus outside?
I don't have that particular data.
Good evening, Captain Bucks. I live on Windsor Lane. In the back of my yard, just like you're looking through there, you have the big park, Mill Creek Park. And I see everything. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I said that I live on Windsor Lane. Literally, my backyard, if that's the fence, the glass, I see everything in the park. Everything goes. And we get a lot of fireworks. I don't necessarily think there's a lot of shootings, but I'm going to tell you, during the October seasoning for hunting is really bad. And when I call you guys, so I'm one of the ones that call you guys, because sometimes it sounds like it's in my backyard. They say it's in Delran, or they say they're out there duck hunting in Mill Creek Park. And that comes a lot. And that echoes, if it is foggy, it echoes all throughout. So, I like free. And I will try anything free, but when I was on council, there was a large cost to ShotSpotter. So what is after free to make sure that we really need it here? Because as mayor, we looked at that and to see, but the cost was prohibitive. And I think that should be told to the public. But I'm more concerned here as a private citizen, in my particular area, that those hunting days, they can get really, really loud. One time I called you guys, I thought it literally was in my backyard, and the out there shooting Donald Duck, whatever. But how does that play into that?
You're 100% correct. We do get those calls for the duck hunters. And it's just that's what it is. This technology would pick up those would pick up those types of calls. And what it would do is it would pinpoint within 82 feet of where that is. And if they're in their duck blind, out on one of the lakes, it would pinpoint in that area. In reference to cost, the grant was for 2 years for $99,000. So divide that by 2 was at 49,500 per year, and it covers 1 square mile.
Great points, and I'm glad you mentioned the 4th of July as well as New Year's Eve. So what we do is during those particular times when we know that there's going to be a large number of fireworks as well as gunfire, and although we are still trying to discourage celebratory gunfire, what we do is we actually let all of our customers know we do a much more suppression during that time, but we still do detect gunfire, and we're going to send the alert to law enforcement. But law enforcement has the discretion to determine if it's a particular area where it's like, that people are just firing off because it's New Year's Eve or it's the 4th of July fireworks that sounds like you're in the war. But coming back around to the firework, at the park and the duck shooting, what we could do, and I don't know if I've even shared this with Captain Buck, if you let Addie know, we can actually let our team know. So when the duck season comes into play, if the sensors are in that area, somewhere near that area, we can let our team know so that when they're listening, they can start trying to filter out some of that during that time, around that October time frame. So there are ways to try to mitigate some of that. Okay.
So we're doing a fireworks where they're doing the fireworks and they hurt themselves. So they can also still show up to the scene, even though it may be a fireworks and not an actual fire. And some, back up, Terry, somebody hurt themselves in the process of now they're losing fingers and they're bleeding out, or they shot themselves or they shot their buddy while they were duck hunting because he wasn't away or because he was with his son. So you need to open your mind when it comes to the duck hunting situation. Yes, it happens and they're aware. They know the areas as where it's at, but at the same time, we do have people who also hurt themselves in the process, and they're able to render aid as soon as possible because it's that duck hunting season, fireworks season, and it's either you bleed out or they show up. So nobody's gonna call because it's fireworks, right? Oh, it's just fireworks. But you got little Jimmy here who blew his fingers out and he's bleeding out because everybody just thought it was regular fireworks. So keep that in mind also.
And we respond to every call that comes in, whether it's the fireworks calls or if it's the duck hunters, our officers respond to every call that we get dispatched to.
Got a question right here in the back, and then I'll get to the guy up.
We've been living here since 1965. And I know that people always want to say, I've been here 20 years, 40 years, whatever. They weren't living here the way we lived here in the beginning. That means your doors are not locked, your windows are not locked. Now we see this stuff all the time. When we've called the police for the gunshots, they've arrived at least within 3 minutes, found the shells, and that doesn't include us riding around and almost getting caught between stuff on Charleston Road and all over the place. That doesn't include over there at the JFK Center when the person was shot in the car. This is something that is needed. This doesn't have to do with your property values or anything else. If we don't get a grip and a handle on this, as people come to the town, visiting people who came from other towns, from ghettos and other towns, and have dumped this on top of us. You may not want to hear this, but this is what is going on. In the meantime, they can isolate these shots when nobody calls in, when they don't hear it in their home. And we can start back from 2004, even back to the infamous Melbourne Lane shooting. These people move here, they get shot, they go back to Camden, to Trenton, and have their funerals. And we're left here on top of all of this, the gunshots, the bleeding, and whatever. You may not think it's important, you may not think it matters, but it does matter. And Ed explained it very well. She's exactly right. When people shoot off the fireworks, when we used to have fireworks in the town, and now people are shooting them off individually, people do get hurt. People do get hurt when people fire gunshots off for deer hunting and also for other things. When you're looking at a mile radius and where the sensors are, from our house, it is almost 1 mile to the Willingboro Plaza. That's a lot of sound, okay, and that's a lot of space. But when you're driving all over town at night and you decide, well, I'm not getting gas after 9 anymore. I'm not getting gas after 10. We can't keep our company open anymore after 9 or 10 because we're coming in gunshot range of people just firing and shooting things. This is not because the police aren't doing their job. It's just we have too many different types of people here now. And you may not want to hear this. You may not like what I'm saying, but it's the truth of the matter. And this is a good thing to do. If we go past the time for the grant, revisit it the way they're saying, see what other money that we can get, and make the town a place where somebody would want to move to instead of what I hear all over the place. Oh, Willingboro? Yes, now we're, oh, Willingboro, not Willingboro is a safe place to be. And that's the truth of the matter. What about the kids that were in the school on Evergreen Drive when the gunshots were fired in there? You're forgetting all of this stuff. What about all of that? I could give you tons of stuff. Everything is not in the papers. Okay? It is not all in the papers. And we didn't live here like this. I'm not a spring chicken. I may look younger than I am, but I'm telling you, I lived here at 11 and a half years old in 1965. We know this town like the back of our hand. We know this town before Garfield was put in here. So, I mean, they were breaking ground when we came here. This town is larger and bigger than it was, and anybody can move here now. They don't even have to have the money to be here. They can come here, they can leave, they can do damage, destroy things in the school, destroy things in the neighborhood, and then they'll go back to where they came from, and we're all still living here. Okay, that's what I wanted to say. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I, Director, may I add a quick point, sir?
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, to speak to your question earlier, it was referring to Director Bucks's numbers, the shooting numbers for 21, 22, and 23. And yeah, they don't sound crazy, but please understand that from my understanding, 80% of shootings are not reported. So that pretty much represents 20% of the shootings that we actually dispatch to. So who knows what the numbers really are? And that's unfortunate. And also, you know, we live in a day and age now where the proliferation of firearms in our communities are at an all-time high. You see the mass shootings we have throughout the country in our schools. Guns are everywhere. And so, yeah, 1 square mile may not sound a lot, but 1 square mile is better than no miles or no miles of coverage in this town. So please understand that 80% are not reported. Yes, ma'am. Well, ma'am, I grew up in Camden. So I tell you, the problem is not the technology. The problem is poverty, lack of opportunities in education, lack of opportunities for our young people to, you know, have after school programs, you know, good education, because I went through their school system and I know what it's like compared to somewhere. No, I'm sorry, ma'am. That's going, I'm not saying it's not, but I'm saying I don't think that that's just having that technology is going to fix everything. I think it's part of the solution, a tool, but I think their problems go a lot deeper than just ShotSpotter.
I hate to,
Correct.
and I hate to interrupt. I'm so sorry, but I want to make sure that everybody gets their first question out.
So my question is, ShotSpotter has been called by other groups throughout the US from other organizations as a probable cause generator. So my question is really not about ShotSpotter, but what would happen if there's a false positive or something that was detected as a gunshot and police are dispatched to a location? What is it going to be? What are the policing policies is going to be to ensure that our civil rights are protected?
So we've created a document and a policy. Everything that we do in our police department, we have policies, procedures for everything. Whether you're being dispatched via ShotSpotter or whether you're being dispatched through 911, our response is going to be very similar. You know, you still have to realize that there is that possibility that it was a false activation. So our officers have to respond pretty much the same way, whether it's coming from, ShotSpotter or whether it's coming from our dispatch center, and we're going to take the necessary, precautions on how we respond. And then as the situation unfolds, and that's how our tactics are going to dictate the situation, if that kind of makes sense. Depending on the situation is going to be the officer's response.
Thank you. William Weston, concerned citizen. I understand ShotSpotter is a tool And with the tool, I just want to know is what training do the people who handle the incident reviews have? And is that data admissible to court or can it be used for, as evidence? And my second question is about the funding. After the 2-year period, if the town was to not to continue, we'll say the subscription, is there any obligation?
So your first question, as far as the IRS, the Incident Review Center reviewers, they go through training. They go through extensive training and repeat trainings. We don't claim to be 100%. So part of that false positive that the gentleman just mentioned there, if there's a false positive or even a false negative where it may have been dismissed by human error, those are times where we actually have those sound bites and we play those back for our reviewers so that they can become acquainted with that and so that they're continuously trained. And so they have extensive training. And your second question was no, there was another one, something with ShotSpotter. Admissible, yes, forensic. So we actually have a separate unit for any type of expert testimony. So officers will have what we call an investigative lead summary. That's not admissible in court. But if there's ever a time when there is a shooting and you need ShotSpotter, sound thinking representatives to speak on ShotSpotter, they will come. We have trained attorneys as well as expert witnesses that will come and present on our behalf.
So after the second year, there is we have no obligation, we have no financial obligation or anything. So, year 2 ends and we decide not to move forward for it because it's not the best thing for our community and our residents. We have no obligation to SoundThinking. They come, they'll retrieve their equipment at no cost to us. And yeah.
My name is Karen Laconey, Willingboro resident. We kind of grazed over real quick about drive-by shootings and how they are or are not picked up by ShotSpotter. I'd like to go over that just a little bit. And then you had mentioned about having any issues with repairs on the equipment that you would come out. What's the turnaround time of when it's reported that there's a problem and a response time?
So our team, we're constantly monitoring the sensor. So you all, the PD or the community would not know if the sensor is down. We have a technical team that monitors that. So Willingsboro have what we call a technical support engineer. Each of our customer has a designated person that is continuously monitoring the sensors. And so if that happens, then they report it, we put it in a priority list. And what we do is we build out for the redundancy. So what Addie has done now, she's made sure that we have enough sensors in the event that we do have one to go out, we'll have enough sensors surrounding it to pick up the sounds until we get the other repaired. And then you mentioned about the drive-bys.
So, and Dr. Fed can correct me if I'm wrong, the technology is able to track that gunfire. So if you have a drive-by shooting, and again, I'll just use, the address of 11 or Pennant Lane. So what it is if it's going down Pennant Lane, it'll pick up whether it's 1, 2, 3, and you'll be able to see on the map just exactly where those shots were being fired.
As long as the firearm is outside of the window. Yes. But of course that would be, but sometimes they're firing and they may be inside, and so it may pick up the sound, but it's better when it's pointed outside of it.
Good evening, Sharon Anderson, Willingboro resident. I'm concerned about what the hidden cost of this system, because while the system itself may not cost anything, the response to it does. And there's Police Chief Magazine had an article about the hidden costs where it said that they found evidence that the implementation leads to a substantial increase in the total number of shots fired calls, costing departments additional resources in response time. Other research has found that while AGDS, acoustic gunshot detection systems, might improve response time, it does not improve case resolution. So while the total volume of calls increases with the implementation, the quality of the calls is lower, leading to an overall reduction in actionable results. And this is a recent study from Police Chief Magazine. So I was a little concerned about that. I have it here if you want to see it. I did get some comfort in the audit that was done, the independent audit by Edgeworth Economics. It says there's a 90%, 97% accuracy, but that doesn't include cities that have terminated their contracts. So I do wonder what it would be if there were termination. The recommendations, and I trust our police department can take these up and they seem consistent with how you work anyway, is to have a plan in place to evaluate the implementation of the new technology and work together with independent researchers or analysts in the department before implementing the technology. It's important to create new or separate incident codes in calls for service database so specific effects can be measured and compared. In St. Louis, the evaluation of technology did not necessarily have to involve using fancy statistical modeling. But it was simple statistical tests that can be done by in-house staff to make decisions about next steps. So I would like to think that we would hear from you in a year. I know at 2 years is the decision point. I think it'd be great to hear at a 1 year point as to how it's working and the staff, you know, because we have a really good police department doing a lot of important things in addition to dealing with shots fired. And I'm concerned that we not lose the other support that we have in policing because of these shots fired and possibly negatives. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the questions. I think I captured all of them. So forgive me if I say them out of order or respond out of order. But I will tell you for sure that there is an annual account review. We do that on an annual basis. So once you all were to go live, you would see me for sure in that following year to do an annual account review. However, even before that annual account review comes about, what I try to do is like a 60-day review after we've gone live to see are there any bugs, any kinks that we need to kind of work out. And so that happens. And we're constantly, I am the liaison for your city. So therefore, any problems that occur, you all will be talking, well, the chief and Tona will be talking to me all the time about those issues, and I'll make sure that they are resolved. In reference to the data that you mentioned in that Chiefs magazine, I would caution, I say anytime that you find any reviews or independent studies, we want to make sure that we're comparing apples with apples. And we've had that to happen with us in the past, and we've actually had to have a particular entity to redact and retract some information that was stated because they were not comparing all of the data side by side. So I cannot speak specifically to that particular article, but I will say that there is no hidden cost with us because what happens, even if you're going to pick up more gunshots because 80 to 85% of them are not called in by 911. So what it's going to do is it's going to resolve officers going 3-4 houses over when they do receive a 911 call so they can go to a more specific location, collect data or evidence, and then keep it moving versus having to go and look for hours in a location that it was not detected. So those are things that we can kind of help to alleviate when it comes to the data that you were speaking of with the hidden cost.
I have one more first question right here.
Gary Johnson, a Willingboro resident. I have a few questions I'd like. The first one that came to mind was when we were talking about locating the gunfire. I understand triangulation, but the comment was made, I believe, in the video that the sound, the arrival of the sound would determine in part way of how to locate it. But that would be predicated on the fact that you knew where the sound was coming from. Otherwise, how do you time it? So how is the triangulation work to locate a gunfire? Second of all, was brought up here, was brought up here earlier, and I think it's a very good question, is excuse me, but I'm not familiar with drive-by shootings to know whether it's common for them to stick their hand out the window when they're popping away at people or whether it's fired from inside the vehicle. Yeah, and the question was brought up earlier, that I think it's excellent, is do we have any idea? And I gather we don't have the data right here, but it'd be interesting to know the number of gunshots that occur outside the home versus inside the home. Because I understand it, if it's inside the home, shot spotter isn't going to pick it up. Another thing that bothers me is when I first heard the program, I was led to believe that they could discern between a gunshot and fireworks. Tonight, I've gotten the impression that isn't quite so. So what is the truth? Can you discern gunshots from fireworks? Because I hear an awful lot of pop, pop, pops going on, and I'm quite sure they're not gunfire. And you can see I wear a hearing aid, so my hearing isn't that great. But, you know, an awful lot of the bang bangs are just noises in the neighborhood and like gunshots. So how many gunshots do we have going on? One of the questions I don't want to forget is, after the 2-year period, what is going to be the cost of this program? And even for a 1 mile radius, that brings up the other point I want to make is I support our police department and I'm in favor of anything that would benefit them in performing their duty. But I think we need to seriously look at this in a cold, impassioned cost benefit ratio. What is the cost? What benefit? And in that regard, the question was brought up earlier, will we get a report, an interim report before this 2-year period is up? And if we should decide after the 2-year period to go with it, will the public get periodic information as the program is ongoing? So I think that covers most of them. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the questions. So I will start with the fireworks. Our sensors are designed, they have an algorithm that picks up bang, pops, and booms. Yes, it detects fireworks, but it weeds those out. So those are dismissed as fireworks. There are times I said that we're not 100%. So, and we have human ears listening to. And so there are times where we may get it wrong. We're not claiming to be 100%. I may make myself clear. We do not claim to be 100%. We know that there will be errors, but those errors we expect to have feedback so that our reviewers can get them, be trained on them so that we don't have them to happen continuously. But the algorithm is designed to detect gunshots. That's what it's designed for. As far as the public information, I think I have something about, you want to know public information? What you got there?
So as far as the cost after the 2-year period, I think we kind of already discussed that. You know, it may be a little bit higher because after that 2-year period, you figure everything goes up, right? So as of currently right now, per year, it's $49,500 per year for 1 square mile. You know, 3 years from now, I don't know what that cost would be.
The triangulation.
Yep.
So the triangulation, as far as knowing about the direction. So the video showed that the assailant was pointed, it was maybe would have been towards your location. So what the system is designed to do, as Addie mentioned too, we have to have at least 3 sensors to pick up the gunshot. Gunshots are directional. They're not like fireworks. When fireworks go, they just splatter and the sound goes and like in a circle or half circle. Gunfire goes in a directional area. So with the sensors picking up, they triangulate and therefore able to provide the location where the gun was fired. So that's what the algorithm is designed to do as far as the gunfire goes. Did I miss anything else for a shot spotter?
I think one of the questions Mr. Johnson had was data for drive-by shoot or data for shootings, whether they were inside or outside. That's something that I can work with our crime analysts to see if we're able to get that data and figure out what those numbers are. So I can get with our crime analyst and see what those numbers are. Updates to the public. Those are some of the things that we could definitely do. We do neighborhood watch the third Thursday of every month at 6:30 at the Reba Foster Senior Center. So that's we always have an officer present giving out information that's going on throughout the community. I periodically do briefs at our council meetings. So, get involved. I'm sure Dr. Worley's going to, like what I'm saying, get involved, come out to our council meetings, come out to our neighborhood watch meetings. That information is definitely out there. Locating. Yep, I think we hit all those. Okay.
Want to take more questions?
I said we give us another 5-10 minutes and then we'll go ahead and we'll wrap up.
Okay, so, let me say that I 100% support trying to make the streets safer. I do. I'm 100% in agreement with you that something needs to be done. As far as stats for cities that have it, do you have numbers for how it's brought the crime rate down, what it's changed? Do you have statistical data showing what numbers changed and how it changed? And I think when she was saying about the independent, and correct me if I'm wrong, ma'am, but you were saying a review in a year. Well, we're not talking about like with your company, you do your review and I understand that, but maybe our department as a whole doing their own independent review to see what the numbers look like, because you guys are not here, they are. You understand? So I'm talking about, I think it was talking about an independent council review. And it sounds like this is already been passed. There's no vote on this, right? Is there going to be a vote in 2 years? How is this going to continue? Or are you just going to make the decision, hear what we say and continue this in 2 years?
So to hit the review, every year at the end of the year, I do an annual review of all of our calls. And then I present that review to council. I believe, Mr. Harris, we're looking to set that up in either the first or second week in March at the council meeting. So I do a thorough review of what happened in 2023. And that's where I got those numbers for the fireworks, the gunshots and the shootings. So that's going to also be in 2024's review. So when it comes to, this time, next year, I'll also have that data to be able to compare to the previous years that we already have. In moving forward to at the end of year 2, yeah, that's something that we're going to have to discuss. That's something that we're going to have to collectively talk about amongst, the police department, the governing body, the residents of Willingboro, and present the data and present the information. And then I think collectively, come up with what's best for, our municipality, because again, it comes down to, a cost if we don't have a grant, and that's why, our elected officials are in the positions that they are to be able to make those determinations. Is it beneficial, for our community? Did I get all the questions? Okay.
As far as the data for the other customers, I do not have that data handy, but what I can say, I can tell you for sure, Camden County is one of our most outstanding customers, and they have a system that works very well for them. And if not, so they wouldn't still be one of our customers. We have a less than 1% retention rate. I mean, not the turnover for not retention. I'm sorry. Definitely not retention. I can't even think of it now. Now it's gonna bother me. But we have we lose less than 1% of our customers on an annual basis. And so that says a lot for us. And our customers will come back time and time again and tell us, yes, there are times we get it wrong, but there's so many times that we get it right. And they have multiple success stories to tell us about on a monthly, daily basis. If I call them, they'll tell me, hey, last night our guys went out and they got X, Y, and Z. So it's a tool. It's made for officers to utilize it. We don't claim to make that you're going to go out and make arrests directly from a ShotSpotter alert, but it is a tool for officers to utilize and to do their due diligence in investigations.
Hi. So my thinking is this: has there been something put forth before for something like this? If there's a problem in the community, has there been something that's been put forth before? If there's been some people saying, hey, we have an issue, we have a problem, but no one's presented any sort of solution, then is this the first time something has actually been put forth? And if it is, then that's part of the solution for it, to at least try it, to at least say, hey, this is something that's possible that could help. And it's not a 10-year contract, 10-year government contract. This is a 2-year thing that we're trying out for that amount of, that length of time to get the data, to get the information on it, and to, if it's a possibility, to make Willingboro a safer place. And I'm not from here. I'm not from Jersey. I moved here. I'm in Willingboro now, but it wasn't the place I wanted to be. So let's just, because of what was said about it, you know, and so, but I'm here now. So I wanted to, my question was was there something else that was put forth before? Because we can complain about it all day. We can complain about the crime, but if we're not doing anything about it, if we're not implementing something to say we're trying to do something for our neighborhoods, our communities, our children, if there's been nothing set forth, then why wouldn't we try to implement this and see after 2 long years, that's not like tomorrow we're going to start paying something, but after 2 years reevaluate, or after a year reevaluate it or whatever. But instead of, I don't know, that's my view on it.
Thank you.
I just want to know, is there a way for us to find out, or is it confidential, what other communities in New Jersey have ShotSpotter?
I could compile a list and provide to the director. Yeah, that's not a problem.
I know Burlington City is our closest. Burlington City they just kicked off their program 2 months ago. A month ago. And within, I think when they flipped the switch, correct me if I'm wrong, I think within that night, they had an activation. So it shows that no one called, they got the alert to their either their mobile device or their computers in their vehicles, and they were dispatched to the area, within that 60 seconds guarantee. So I know as close as the other person or the other municipality that also was awarded a grant. So go back to that grant process. So 3 municipalities locally were awarded it. It was us, Pemberton, and Burlington City. Pemberton has chosen to use a different vendor. Us and Burlington City, we chose to use ShotSpotter or SoundThinking.
Yeah, there are about 16 New Jersey customers right now, and a couple more coming on board. But I mean, I'm busy coming out. They call me the Jersey girl at the office because I have all of the Jersey accounts.
So LT, do you remember off the top of your head how many or the grant, how many municipalities or the details of the grant? Okay.
I have one or two final things. First of all, I want to say to the newcomer, I'm approaching 40 years here. If a person is shot somewhere else, been a Willingboro resident prior, 10 years gone, they're still a Willingboro resident when the papers get it. So keep that in mind. They could be gone for 20 years and they'd be listed as former Willingboro resident, first thing out. When we had the problems in, I say 2015 to 2020, when we had the 3 towns and they were fighting and shooting at one another and so forth, we looked at ShotSpotter at that point, and now it brought back because I think then it was about $50,000, and I was thinking 7 square miles. We were about 7.5 square miles. Councilman Anderson, it would be a 7.7. Didn't matter. 7 times 50 was 350. My question specifically is, the 1 square mile, is that enough of a sample in a 7.5 square mile town? I mean, literally to try to figure out, and you don't have to say, because I totally support the police department, that maybe that's a specific area you have in mind that you sort of feel that would help, because that's only one square mile. I mean, is 1 mile linear or 1 square mile?
So it's 1 square mile. Right. And we used our crime analyst to determine that location. We're going to keep that location, confidential just for, investigative reasons and things like that. But could we have gone 2 square miles? That would have, eaten up that grant and would have only have given us that data for that 1 year. So, our decision was to go for the 1 square mile for that 2 year to give us enough of that statistical information to be able to determine, moving forward, all right, do we need to increase this out to a 2 square mile thing? Or is that 1 square mile good? Or do we even need the platform itself?
After the comment from Addie, we'll do one final question.
So also keep in mind, once with the 1 square mile, if in the future we decide that this is a good thing and we can push forward for Willingboro, we have the ability to do an expansion. What the expansion is, we will currently have the current coverage, and then we will expand the coverage area to wherever they decide we need other additional coverage. So we have the ability to expand on the current area. Does it have to be attached to the exact coverage area? No, it can actually be in a different area of whatever they choose according to the stats of what they received within the past couple years or so. So keep that in mind, that that can happen as well. We can go up to as many miles of square footage they want that they're allowed to receive.
And in addition to what Addie just stated, Bucks mentioned that we will pick up outside of the coverage area as well. And oftentimes our customers utilize that data, a lot of the suppressed gunfire that has been outside of the coverage area, to kind of determine where their next expansion would occur, because they realize that there's more gunfire outside of the area that they did not know about. So that's just another tidbit of information.
So I was able to get that information from Lieutenant Toner. So he says 20 law enforcement agencies across New Jersey with grants totaling $7 million to acquire and expand technology to combat gun violence.
Couple final questions. Since it came up here today that the shots fired isn't the only player in this field, we, the public, of course, have only heard information about this particular agency. So how do we fit into the analysis, or do we, in evaluating this program? We have data for no one but this one. Also, if a program is good, I feel it should appear no questions, or these questions about the thing. Just about the first time I heard of this meeting, I also came across a news article that apparently Chicago had a falling out with shots fired. And since then, I've heard reports that other communities such as Seattle, Pompano Beach, Buffalo, San Antonio, and Portland have also had problems. Their citizens looking unfavorably about shots fired. If we're going to do an evaluation, I do respect the views of our police department, but I think we need to evaluate pros and cons. And so if this is a good program, you should have nothing to interfere with these, but there ought to be some input, or at least some examination. Why are these people turning away from this program? And I know some of the criticism that was made of it was police officers run on wild goose chases too often. So I don't want to say that I'm against the program. I just think that we need to look at it with a cold analytical viewpoint and look at all sides. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I'm glad that you mentioned it. That's why I mentioned the leaks earlier, but you're right with Chicago. Chicago has been one of our longstanding customers. And if you've been following it closely, you will find in those articles that you have several citizens and even their commanders speaking out from the PD saying that they do not want to get rid of ShotSpotter, that it has been very helpful. They have over 12, 13 precincts in Chicago, and they have a lot of gunfire. And those officers are saying, if they lose ShotSpotter, what are they going to do? The residents are saying the same thing. The mayor made a promise when he ran on for election, and he's talked about it. But what I will be happy to say today is that we have been able to actually at least quell some of the fears for now and do an extension for Chicago right now. So they will still be covered utilizing ShotSpotter technology for the next few months. So they are good right now. And as far as the others, again, ShotSpotter is a tool. And just like with any tool, if you don't use it, if you don't use it properly, then it will be ineffective for you. And so we do provide best practices. We're constantly coming back for retraining. And when we know better, we do better, we learn better, and we let our customers know those things as well. So we are constantly having these conversations with our customers to make ourselves better. Thank you for bringing that to light.
Mr. Johnson, I think one of your questions in there was, why ShotSpotter? I think I mentioned it, earlier, was, their longevity in the business, their footprint in in New Jersey, and their reputation. So that's why we chose to go with Sound Thinking / ShotSpotter. And as far as response, it's going to be in our policies and procedures on how we respond to these types of incidents. And officers are held accountable. Officers are held accountable, every single day, in our police department. We have layers of review. All of our officers are equipped with body camera. We have in-car cameras. So anything is we have random reviews of our officers' body worn cameras, and any discrepancies are, they're addressed. They're addressed through our disciplinary process and our internal affairs process. So at this point, what I'll do is I'll open it up to the panel for some closing remarks, and then we'll go ahead and we'll wrap this up. If I will start with the deputy mayor, if he has any closing remarks or any comments.
I just want to say thank you to the residents. Thank you to those who zoomed in to be informative, to understand what we're trying to do, that we're trying to be inclusive of the community when different opportunities approach us, not just this, but everything, because we do understand it's all about the communication and the education of whatever goes on in this community. And I just want to thank you for the representatives from ShotSpotter, the police department, township council, and our manager. And where's Gary Springer? He was walking around with the mic, but to our gracious hosts. But thank you so much, Willingboro.
At this point, I'll turn it over to Councilmember Dr. Worthy.
Thank you.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Mm.
Okay. I want to say thank you as well. And I appreciate Captain Buck's leadership, him and his team, for the work that they did to get the grant for the community and to bring ShotSpotter to Willingboro. We've had a series of discussions and meetings, and we're very intentional about making sure that we bring the community along with us to help the community to understand what this is as another tool for Willingboro. And we look forward to Captain Buck's report a year from around this time, where we can hear how things are going, what we like, what we don't like, get your feedback, and do that again at the end of that year before we make any decisions about moving forward. But I appreciate everyone who came out. We hope you share the news with your colleagues and friends about what we're doing in Willingboro. This video will be available also on the Willingboro Township YouTube channel. So if they want to play it back and listen to questions, they can do that. And as always, they can reach out to any member of council, the manager, or the police department if they have follow-up questions about what we've covered tonight. Thank you so much for coming out.
Mr. Manager.
So I just want to thank everybody from that came out this evening. I will share with you that I am not a long resident in Willingboro either. And when I told people that I was coming to work in Willingboro and live in Willingboro, I kind of got the side eye. Like you said, Willingboro. And it was funny because my history is not one where I've been around gunfire, but my first weekend here, I heard this pop, pop, pop. I was like, ooh, what was that? And I didn't know what it was. And then Captain Bucks was like, oh yeah, there was a shooting at the gas station right outside of your bedroom window. And I was like, oh, that was interesting. But what I have come to realize is that the reputation of Willingboro is not the reality of Willingboro. And Willingboro is a wonderful community. And I think as we see some of the testimony from Captain Bucks, how things are turning around, the crime levels in Willingboro are coming down. And this is not a tool to solve anything in totality, but it is another tool at their disposal to make our community a better, more respectable, safer place to reside. And if it's a one-year trial, that's a good thing. And after that 1 year or 2 years, you say, you know what? We really looked at this data and it was nice, but we really don't need this here. We are free to walk away. But if it's something that still helps us bring those numbers down, then it is still a good thing to have. And we can find the money. We can always find the money, especially when it comes to the health, safety of our residents. So I thank you all for being open-minded and willing to give this a shot. And I thank you all for being on board no pun intended, no pun intended.
Yeah.
And then a year from now, I thank you all in advance for coming back to the table and rediscussing on how we move forward as a community. Thank you.
Captain Perez.
Just quickly, I want to say thank you all for your thoughtful questions and concerns. You know, it does me good to see how much you folks care about your town, our police department. Please understand that we care as well. Again, we bleed for you, literally. We're here. So thank you. And if there's any further questions that we have not answered, I'm going to be mingling around, saying hi to everybody. So if you have any other questions, concerns, I'll be here to talk. So thank you again.
Dr. Fett?
I'm gonna let Addie speak just before I give my closing remarks. Addie.
If you are interested in becoming one of us to help putting a sensor on your residence or commercial property or anything like that in Willingboro, please take my card, email me, text me, or call me, whichever it is. We are going to start the site visits within 2 weeks. And we are going to start installation in March. So the sooner you let me know that you want to participate, you don't have to tell me now because I prefer to you just email me or text me on your own time. If you want to participate, sir, put your hand down. If you see it in silence, go ahead, sir. Go ahead. I'm not gonna tell you. When you call me and text me and let me know, you'll let me know where you live at. I'll confirm the location of the area. If you're in the coverage area, I will ask your permission. Would you allow me to install one of the sensors on your residence? You will sign a permission form and it's not a contract because you're not obliged in any way with it. They pay for everything that you agree to it, and then we'll start an installation in March. So please make sure you take my card if you're interested in installing one on your residence or commercial property that you have in Willingboro, okay?
Thank you, Addie. There's also a confidentiality agreement that you, non-disclosure that you will be signing off as well. Because we don't want you to be telling your friends and your neighbors, hey, I got one of those things on my business. Because they're going to tell their sons or daughters or somebody, and next thing you know, you're going to hear somebody on your roof or whatever the case may be. And we don't want that. We don't want that. But Addie, this is the very, very last question.
So basically, as you can tell, we didn't show you what the sensor looks like, right? The sensor has been upgraded to a different one. You won't even know what it looks like. It actually looks like a regular antenna, if I'm going to say it like that. You will see it on the day of installation. And so the technician will talk to you first to make sure you're comfortable with how it's being installed on the residence. We're not going to install on the roof. We usually try to use the back portion of the house. The mounting option will be different depending how your house or commercial building is. You will allow us to be able to do that. We'll have a different conversation as well on it. And then once it's up there, it's not going to be shown where it looks like an actual shot spotter because it's not going to have any logos on it. It's not going to sound off or nothing like that. It's just going to look like a regular cable modem box, if you know what I mean.
Thank you, Addie. Thanks for that last question. So just for the record, because I know we're being recorded here, I need to correct. I said 1% retention, I mean attrition. So I got to make sure that's on the record because I don't want anybody going and saying that's what she stated. But I want to say that one thing that we did not mention and no one asked the question, why did our name change? We were ShotSpotter for 20 odd years. We changed our name because we realized there was more for us to do. ShotSpotter is just one piece of the puzzle. So it's a technology. And because of the other things that we offer, we could not still be ShotSpotter and be able to provide community engagement or, crime trace or different things that we have. So we wanted to be, and this is a real play on words, the sound thinkers for public safety. And that's truly what we have. We have dedicated men and women. Some real brainiacs that are working in our organization that work tirelessly to make sure that they are thinking soundly about communities everywhere, every day. So I just want you all to know that. Thank you for your time and all of the questions. They were very good.
All right, as I just give my final remarks, again, as everyone on this panel said is, I appreciate you guys and I thank you guys for coming out. Excellent questions. And what I said earlier in my remarks, we are only as good as our relationship with you and the relationship you have with us. 100% agree. Transparency is key. We as a police department and municipality, we have nothing to hide. The more we can give you, the more information we're allowed to give you, we will. Stay tuned in the March meeting, either the first or second meeting. I will be giving another presentation in reference to, our 2023 year in review. And it's going to have a lot more detailed information, about the police department, about our calls for volume, about our crime stats, right? When we talk about our crime stats, I compare it to other municipalities, homicides, gunshots. It's not just Willingboro, it's Evesham, it's Morristown, it's Mount Laurel, so, a lot of people, and I feel what you guys feel when someone says, oh, Willingboro, I'll leave it at that. So, again, thank you guys. I appreciate you, good night and God bless. Thank you.